my name's Aparna and I'm on the El Paso Creatives podcast this week. Today I'm going to be talking about my art journey, what led me to do things like paint with my feet, and also how I got into commissions, because right now I'm selling a lot of paintings and it's quite different from when I started.
Awesome. So painting with your feet, that's interesting. Sounds like, how's that even a thing?
Okay, so everyone has asked me this once I bring it up to them, but basically when I was in high school, when as a senior, I was still in AP art and I was making pieces every week, maybe 2 to 3. And since I was doing this so heavily, and also I spray painted some fences on the side as a graffiti practice,
hmm
my wrist messed up and we got it checked out and I got carpal tunnel in this right hand. Since my right hand is my drawing hand, they told me that I shouldn't be drawing or painting anymore because I needed to give it a rest and let it heal. But knowing me, I'm not going to stop art. I'm just
Yeah,
going to keep doing it. And I figured out that I could paint with my feet. Originally, it was just like a funny idea because I thought it'd be hilarious if someone saw me painting on my feet. Hey, that's cool. Or it's not that good, but it's funny.
yeah,
And I made my first painting. It turned out pretty good. My parents saw it and told me I should continue. That's how I got where I am now.
yeah. That's very unique. I feel like that's crazy. I never ever think I would meet a person who paints with their feet. And so like, is it hard for you or is it just like it's like a second nature type of thing now for you?
I would say now it's a second nature, but definitely when I started, I couldn't paint for a long period of time because,
hmm
no one has that stability in their feet to just hold your foot up and paint and move it around. But after a while of practicing, I think I've gotten pretty good at it. I can paint something in like an hour now.
And an hour with your feet. Wow.
Yeah.
You say that like it's like very just like, oh, it's normal. I paint with like an hour with my feet.
I mean, for me, it's a normal.
Yeah, I'm like, for me, it would take me like I think a month to even be able to hold the little paintbrush, you know.
That
But
too, I have a weird thing where I have this sock called my paint sock
oh
because
wow,
I couldn't hold a paintbrush with just my feet. So I tried with a sock and let me have better grip. It doesn't make any sense, but it works.
that's crazy. That is crazy. Um, so I guess going into like the whole art aspect, how did you get interested in art? You know, or what does art represent to you? What type is your favorite style of art?
I have always been creating art since I was about 5 years old, but I never really got into it until high school. And the reason I got into it is because I was so stressed with school. So it acted as like an escape for me. And to this day, it still is an escape. So if I'm doing schoolwork and I'm feeling too stressed out or overwhelmed, I'll just turn everything off, get out a piece of paper or a notebook, and start drawing. It just lets
Mhm,
me relax and ease my mind for at least a few minutes or half an hour.
mhm. Is there like a certain type of special art, like type of style that you like to do?
I've actually been trying to figure this out lately. Like, what is my art style? Because I don't know. I would say that my art style is more go with the flow, not as much as, let's say, Bob Ross, because he's amazing and he can just fix something if he messes up. I
I used to
haven't,
watch his shows, yeah.
I love watching him because that's where I learned some of the techniques,
Mm,
but I'm not at that level yet. Like, if I mess up, I can't just figure it out as soon as I do it.
yeah.
My style, just go with the flow, but have an idea. I don't have a specific color scheme either. I have a variety.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And like talking about like, I think patience is a big key, you know, when you're painting. You mentioned Bob Ross, and I've always saw his shows where he's just like he has so much patience just to do like little things. What's been like, I guess, the most challenging part for you, like in your creative process when you're painting?
You probably heard about this from other artists, but artist block is a real thing. You'll be
Mhm.
doing a bunch of paintings in one week, and the next week you'll have no ideas. Even though you want to paint, you just can't put it on the piece of paper or you can't put it on the canvas, and just it's frustrating because you want to get your creativity out. You just there's no ideas to put out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot. Yeah, like I interviewed this one from last week, and like the idea is just like whatever you feel at the moment or whatever, it's just what someone creates.
Hmm.
I've seen some of your work where you create a lot of portraits and like animals. Are those like more of like the type of things you like to do, or is there a reason why you do mostly just animals and like self portraits?
For that, I've always been a fan of drawing like humans
Mhm,
because it helps me practice proportions. But for animals, I just find it really fun to paint like the texture of their fur. So in the tiger, you can see like all the details I put into like its whiskers or
mhm,
all the fur surrounding its face. To me, that's just the most fun part is getting in there and really making it look like it's alive.
mhm. And how do you get inspired to do all this? Like for me, it'd be really hard to like just find my inspiration or my motivation, you know? Like, is there anybody you look up to, any type of like role model in a way?
My role model with art, definitely, Frida Kahlo. So she is a Hispanic artist, and in high school, I read a lot about her when I had art class, and I would see a lot of her paintings, and I always wondered how she paints that. It turns out a lot of her paintings are based on the pains that she felt.
Mhm,
So her and her husband were constantly in affairs with other people, and that was like a pain on both of them. Her husband was also an artist, and you can see in his work. But also, she went through a lot of physical pain as well, because when she was 18 or 17, I can't remember exactly, she had an accident and a trolley pole went through her stomach.
wow.
It's a really big accident, but she took it and made art with it. So that inspires me because when I'm feeling like pain in my hand, because I still have that from the carpal tunnel, I can just take it out and put it on a piece of paper and make it
Mhm.
go away in a sort of way.
Yeah, that's interesting because I kind of know like an artist like that too. He's more of like a, I guess, digital artist now, but before he was in the hospital and like he was away from his daughter for like 2 or 3 months. And so like he really loved his daughter and all that. So he would, in order for him to like remember his daughter or like to feel like he's with her, he would like get photos of her that he took of her and then like put them in like crazy scenarios and like crazy fantasy worlds, things like that. And it's just like people can really like just, I guess, make anything out of anything. And like, I
Mhm.
told the person from last week, I was like, without art, the world would be really plain. You know, like it's just art makes the world.
My high school had a mural written on the wall. It said, "The earth without art is just eh." Like literally, if you spell
Yeah.
it without art.
Yeah. No,
And
yeah.
yeah.
That's true. That is very true. Um, but like now, like the time we're in now, um, with COVID going on and all that, like, so part of what this episode, what we wanted to talk about was how to get paid with art and commission. With COVID, you know, how does that affect you? How do you adjusting to that? You know, being able to sell your artwork and get your artwork out there.
The thing with me is I didn't actually start selling art till COVID happened, so it kind of expanded my ability in that way. Before, I always wanted to start an online shop, but I never actually did it. But when COVID started and I was spending more time at home, I had so much more time to get everything in order, set prices for things, start contacting people, see if they want a piece of art.
Hmm.
So what I did, I still don't have a website, but I have a spreadsheet on my computer and I write down all the prices, all the details. Like if let's say they're getting a pet portrait and they want two pets, it'll be extra. And as far as getting it to them, since most of my purchases are local, they usually do curbside pickup. If in the case that is not possible at all, I will drop it off.
Hmm. So you kind of started making artwork, I guess, while this was going on with like the whole pandemic,
Mhm.
right? Um, for anybody who's been doing it, I guess, before, what type of advice would you give them, like, on how to adjust to COVID?
I would say don't look at COVID as something that's keep like setting you back or keeping you from selling. Look at it as like a space to expand to different customers from different areas.
Hmm.
So usually people sell within their area because they don't talk to people in other places. But now, since you're stuck inside or you can't go anywhere, go look on TikTok or go online and um, just put your artwork out there. You never know. Maybe someone in another state would like it. And that way your art also gets spread across the country or across maybe even the world. It's more exposure in this way.
Yeah. And looking at that painting behind you, you know, that's very detailed, like how you mentioned earlier with the whiskers and everything. How do you know when a painting is done for you? Like, is there ever a way where you're just like, okay, this painting is done, or you always want to add more to it?
I always want to add more to it. That's the thing
Mhm.
that I struggle with to this day. even now I'm looking at it, I'm like, hey, I could go more detail with the fur on the baby tiger.
Hmm.
But like I just have to stop myself because if I add too much, sometimes I mess up paintings. There's been a few I have to like scrap because I just keep going and it doesn't look good at the end.
Yeah. And back with the whole feet painting, show us an art piece that you drew with your feet, and let's
So
just compare those. Yeah.
I have a recent one that I just did.
See,
It's a it's
that's
a lion.
crazy. Yeah, because it's like that you drew with your feet. Like that's
Yeah,
talent.
like they look pretty similar in terms of like proportions and stuff, but if you look at the detail, this lion is just a bunch of strokes of paint, whereas this tiger is a bunch of little itty bitty like lines for the fur, and the whiskers are lines. I couldn't draw whiskers with my feet even if I tried.
Yeah. No, and that's like very like I don't know how to say it. I forgot the word for it, but like very like I don't know, like keeping your foot in motion without shaking, things like that. It's I could
Yeah.
never. I'm just telling you that.
On the lion one, a lot of the strokes were actually mess ups, and I just went with it. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, it's a lion, it's fine. The mane will look messy.
Yeah,
So,
and I think that's what makes the art like any type of art piece very unique is that like it's original art. Like the mistakes that you see on there, it's not really mistakes, but it adds more to like the painting. Be
yeah.
like, I told people this. I'm like, when you're buying someone's artwork, you're not buying their artwork. You're buying like the whole struggle that they went through, and that's like that's what makes it really unique. It's like the whole time they put into it. Um, but with that one you just showed us, what was the most challenging part about that one?
Okay, so I painted this last week, and
Hmm.
before that, I actually hadn't painted with my feet in like a good 4 months or so. So the hardest part was getting back into it. And if you don't practice something, then even within a short time period, you'll kind of lose the skill a slight bit. So I couldn't keep my foot still. I couldn't like go for a long time. Whereas, let's say I did that a few months ago, it probably would have been done quicker, even
Hmm.
though an hour is pretty quick. A few months ago, maybe it would have been 30 minutes, but I didn't practice, and it was a little hard to get back into it.
Yeah, that's what comes out in every episode, I guess, is like we always mention practice makes perfect. Without practice, you're really not gonna get far unless you
Mhm.
you make those mistakes, those type of errors. Um, in every painting that you do, is there like a certain signature mark that you always put in every painting, or like a special something?
I sign every painting, but I don't have a constant signature because I always change it.
Hmm.
I haven't come up with my creative signature yet,
Well, not
but
like a signature, but like a special, I guess, logo. Like I don't know if you know Pirlo, he has like always a sword to every painting that he does or things like that. Yeah. Like a special symbol in every painting, I guess, or mark.
actually no. I
No.
don't. They're all just different.
Yeah. Just something like unique or some touch up that you add in it. No.
I like to add the color orange in all of them
Orange.
somehow.
Mm.
There's
Is that your,
always
is that your favorite
orange.
color?
No, my
Orange.
favorite
No.
color is pink, but
Hmm.
I guess orange and pink kind of go in the same range of colors.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
I'll go with that.
Yeah. Um, you know, the art pieces we're seeing right now, they're very well detailed. You could tell that you actually did take a lot of practice to make them. When you first got started, like what are resources that you had that like I guess to put it like in a better question, what resources did you have when you first got started that like you had to experiment and get creative with what you had at the moment?
So as I grew up, I only did colored pencils. So
Hmm.
with that, I didn't have any fancy colored pencils when I was growing up. I'd use Crayola. So to get creative with that, I would look up ways to like make them more pigmented. And one person, they put their Crayola in hot water, and it makes it look more like a fancy colored pencil or something like that. But when I got to high school, that's when I actually started experimenting with different mediums because I had art class and my teacher kind of forced me to do it because I just refused to stray away from colored pencils or like tempera paint or something.
Yeah.
And this, I guess, the resources I had there were the guidance of my teacher. It
Mhm.
always helps to have someone that knows how to do something, and it never hurts to ask someone for help
Yeah.
because if you don't know how to do it, you're not going to learn if you just try and well, you might learn if you figure it out by yourself, but it'll be harder, and it just saves a lot of time if you ask someone.
Hmm. I know you do a lot of self portraits too. Is it hard to like do that, like paint like a photo? Because I know like so when I mentioned Igor Digas before, I know that somebody like when photography finally became a thing, somebody took his paintings of ballerinas and all that and turned those into photos. Like vice versa with you, like is that challenging to do like with your self portraits when you take someone's photo?
I would say that it's more intimidating or stressful because you feel like you have to get it perfect, or else maybe you won't do the photographer justice.
Mm-hmm.
So I painted some of the models in El Paso, and when I look at the photos that photographers here took of them, I first of all I asked them for their permission, but as I'm painting it, I feel stressed because I feel like I have to get all the details exactly right, or else neither of them will like it. But in
Yeah.
the end, they just appreciate the time you put into it, and most of the time, they think it's better than you think. So just
Yeah.
don't go based only on your judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, you judge yourself harsher than you should.
Yeah. Um, Pricing your work also. How do you go about pricing like all your paintings and
I It's still a work in progress, but as of right now, I get a variety of canvases when I order, and as soon as I get them, I'll write down a price for each one. So let's say it's a small canvas, like 5 inches by 5 inches. I will charge those starting at 15, and if there is a lot of detail in whatever the person wants me to paint, then I'll add about maybe $5.
Mhm.
It honestly just depends on you. My best advice for pricing your paintings is to price it at the worth you think it is. Because
Yeah.
everyone always tells me like I'm underselling my paintings or I'm overselling it. But in the end, it's what I think is the worth of my pieces. And if I sell it for less than I think, I'm just going to be disappointed and feel like I gave up a piece for someone that didn't really care about it.
Yeah.
And if someone thinks that I'm underselling it, then it just doesn't you just don't listen to them because
Mhm.
it's your decision and you're the one that made it. You know the time that goes into it. You know how you feel about it.
You really
Just
know the value. Yeah.
yeah. If they say you're underselling it, they may see it as something better than you see it, but if you don't see it at that high level yet, you don't need to feel the need to price it that high.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true as an artist, it is your work and you know how much time you put
Mhm.
into it. So yeah, it does different. Like I've seen people sell a bunch of like art pieces. It was literally just like a strip of a line going for like $500.
Mhm.
And then
And
people, yeah.
yeah, for some people, that's really good because people have different tastes in art. So
Hmm.
maybe someone wants to buy this piece for that much, then someone else wants to buy like an abstract piece for that much. They're just different styles. And if someone doesn't want to buy your art because of how much you're pricing it, they're not worth being a customer because
Hmm.
customers will buy your art because they want it, not because it's cheap or not
Yeah.
because it's the price they want. They just want it, so they'll pay for it.
Yeah. And what's been like the most, I guess, exciting art piece that you've made? One that you were very excited to make or your biggest achievement one? That
This
one?
one.
Yeah. Why is that?
I I bought these giant canvases at the start of COVID,
Hmm.
and I've never done a huge piece like this. So it was just all exciting, just drawing out the whole thing and working on it a small amount of time each weekend. Just seeing it progress and like taking videos of time lapses of me painting and watching it back, you can really see your skill and how far you've come from when you first started.
Yeah. Practice makes perfect in the end.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And with this one especially, I can definitely see how far I've come
Hmm.
because I don't have some of my first drawings with me, but the proportions they were off.
Hmm.
People told me they were good at the time because for my age or just for my art level, I barely started. It was good. And
Hmm.
now I look back, I don't like it. Doesn't mean it's bad though. It's just a different time for me.
And like progressing in your artwork, what habits or shortcuts or skills did you learn along the way that really helped you progress to making that piece behind you?
Like we mentioned before, practice, practice,
Mhm.
practice. That's what gets you really good. But there are shortcuts you can take. Like instead of buying a bunch of expensive paints for your first go run. Buy some cheap paints and work with them and figure them out. That way you don't have to spend all that money and maybe you won't even use it. So
Mhm.
shortcuts is just working with what materials you have to figure out if you like it or not before you go all in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And
Because
what would
if you buy expensive materials, you might feel the need to use all of it even if you don't like it. So in that way, you're kind of not wasting your time, but you're using your time for something you don't like.
yeah. And that's a good point. That's what was mentioned last week is like you don't need the most expensive things to create something. You know, people make the craziest pieces of art out of like toothpicks or something, you know. It's just you really don't need the most expensive things. You could really buy things from Dollar Tree and create
Mhm,
something very beautiful.
mhm.
Yeah. Um Along the process of making your art, what mistakes have you made that you learned from?
My mistakes with art have been just listening too much to other people's opinions.
Hmm.
So, especially online nowadays, people can be really mean. If you put your art out there, there's always going to be someone that hates on it. And that's the biggest mistake. I listened to them. And at one point, I just stopped creating art because I thought it wasn't good enough. And it really does take those supporters to like kind of bring you out from that.
Hmm.
And, but if you don't see that support at the time, just listen to yourself or listen to people that are close to you, people that care about you. They're not going to put your art down. Even if they don't personally like it, they're going to encourage you.
Hmm.
It never helps to put someone else's art down. So in it just you just
Yeah.
don't listen to other people's opinions.
Yeah.
If you like it, it's good.
Yeah, and like we said, right now, when you're pricing your work, you know, put the value that you think is
Mhm,
worth what it's worth because no one else's opinion really matters but yours.
mhm.
You know, people could say it's crap, but then you think it's the most beautiful thing, and somebody else could think that. So
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's a very important thing. Um, but any also critical moments that you've had, any sacrifices you had to make, tough decisions when making like pieces of art.
I can't think of one right now
Mhm.
other than the most obvious, so like my hand, because
Yeah.
I do paint with my hand again, so like that's kind of a sacrifice I'm making. Because every time I paint with my hand, I have the chance of making the carpal tunnel I have worse. It's like a nerve condition.
Right.
So every time I paint, it might get tighter, and eventually, if I do it too much, it might stop working completely.
Mhm.
It's again, it's
Oh,
always might. The doctors don't have a definite thing, and that's why I decided that it's worth it to keep making art. If I
yeah.
can, yeah. It's not. They don't have a high percentage of people that actually lose function in their hand if they keep doing it.
Hmm.
So for me, that's I guess the biggest sacrifice I'm making on my art right now.
Yeah. Now that is tough to hear. Like live on is just like you don't know, but you're gonna keep doing what you love to do. And
Mhm.
like some people would say, I'm gonna die doing what I love to do.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
lose my hand doing what I love to do.
You put your hand on a sculpture, you know, just like that was my hand back then, you know. Now I paint with my feet. So two different I guess topics. What do you really like about the art industry and what do you actually really hate about the art industry?
I love that I don't know if this is everywhere because I've only lived in El Paso, but what I love about the art industry is that everyone's just so supporting. If
Mhm.
someone's creating art, they just support other people who are creating other pieces of art. And what I don't like again is the negativity. With anything, you're always going to get some negativity
Mhm.
and it's kind of hard to keep your head up at some points. But in yeah, it's just it's always going to be like that, and it's just something you need to accept.
Yeah,
But it
that's true.
doesn't mean to stop doing your passion or anything like that.
Yeah, like in the end, always do what you love. What makes you happy?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think the worst part is the people who they just feel like the need for their time is to hate on others.
Hmm.
I don't personally understand that. I really don't get it. But maybe they it makes them feel good about themselves. I don't know.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
something in between there. It's just they don't. I guess they don't really see it as you do, and
Yeah.
you know, don't focus on those people. Yeah.
And going back to like the things that I shouldn't have done,
Hmm.
don't pick fights with your haters
Yeah.
because that just makes them win. They want your attention. That's the reason they're giving you negative comments. They want you to comment back. They want you to come at them. They want to fight. So if you just ignore them and keep making your art and
Yeah,
other people just keep supporting you, they're going to get mad and they're going to stop.
exactly. Yeah, and I think like that's the way you get back at them is that like they're trying so hard, and I feel like that's always sad. Is like somebody's really trying to make you feel bad. Like that's sad for them, but
Mhm.
like it bothers them even more when you don't acknowledge it rather than acknowledging it.
Mhm.
Um, especially yeah, like in the art industry, and that's the reason why we created what we're doing right now is because we always saw that lack of support. Of like being there for artists, photographers, musicians, things like that. People always tell them like, no, get a real job, or it's just a hobby, or you're not going to get anywhere with that, and it would put somebody down. And I've seen it where somebody could have became like the best artist, and because they were told those things, they never pursued it, and they lost that opportunity or that talent, because of what people told them negatively.
I definitely still get told things like that. Like
Hmm.
I'm in school for science, and people tell me that I should just give up art because it's not going to get me anywhere. Science is going to get me somewhere, but yes, science will get me somewhere because I want to do it. But if
Yeah,
I wanted to do art full time, I would.
yeah,
It's just,
no.
yeah, I'm always going to have that art side of me, no matter what. It's always going to be something for me, whether a hobby or maybe I'll start a business out of it someday.
Mhm. And
It's
it's possible because I don't know if you heard that story like back then, the Lost Generation, when like before Picasso became Picasso and Fitzgerald became Fitzgerald, they all got together. I forgot the other artist. There was this one guy, I forgot his name, but he brought them all together and he created like they created artwork based on what was going on in World War I, and that's how they became what they became because they've implemented and they just kept creating with like the same environment, like the same um I guess my with the same mindsets as others, like the same creative people. Like they didn't go and create art with somebody who has no interest in art, but they stuck together in their group and they grew together.
Mhm.
um that kind of relates to that. It's just like don't go based off what people don't know about you in the art industry, but like hang out with those people who they help you and they're in the same industry as you and you end up growing like that. But aside from that, I mean, like any dream projects that you have, anything that you're excited that's coming up that you're gonna paint and draw.
Yes, well, there was something coming up before COVID, and that kind of messed it up. But I was gonna have my own art installation here.
Ooh.
I forgot where because it was a long time ago now. But
Mm-hmm.
I got accepted to do it, and it would be like 5 or 6 pieces. But even that's big for me because I've only done like little pop-up stands for art,
Mm-hmm.
but never like a full-on exhibit where people can come and just look at the art.
Yeah.
And I was so excited for that. COVID unfortunately postponed that. It might be next year now, but I'm still excited. I'm still like prepping pieces for that because as it keeps getting moved up, I'm taking it as an opportunity to improve my pieces
Mm.
and get better things for that.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that like we always talked about like how has COVID stopped you, but like there's also a positive. It also gave you more time to build your craft up and
Mhm.
practice more.
Yeah.
Um, and like what made you decide that you wanted to be a painter? What inspired you? Did you always want to be like an artist?
I wouldn't say that I wanted to be an artist. I guess it was just kind of in my blood in a way
Mm-hmm.
because my whole family were creative. My mom paints as well. My older sister's a graphic designer, and my younger sister does some art on the side too, and my dad likes building things. So we all have that creative side of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess growing up, seeing everyone do something like that, it just made me want to also be a part of it. And I guess I already had the like kind of talent for it in a way.
Yeah.
I had some sort of thing just drawing me to art and making me want to create my whole life. I didn't really get into it until high school because I that was the time that I took a break because I was getting a lot of hate on my art.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, I came back to it. I guess I was just always kind of meant to do some sort of art, even if it's not going to be my
Mm-hmm.
career. If it'll just be a business, it'll be a side thing for me. I don't know what it'll be,
Mm-hmm.
but it's always going to be there.
Yeah. And I feel like that's very interesting too. Like everybody has a talent within them, like a secret, creative, artistic talent, and
Mhm.
it's just like the more you express it, the more you find out more about yourself too. You know more things about yourself. Like, damn, I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know I could paint with my feet.
Exactly.
I still can't get over that. No matter how many times. It could take like 5 years. I'm still not gonna get over that
I think
experience.
that's my like my friends and my family, that's their biggest flex for me.
Hmm.
They're like, "Oh, she knows how to paint with her feet. That's cool. She's like a monkey."
Yeah. One of these days when like COVID does just disappear, hopefully, we'll have like some type of like live art where you're literally just there
Mhm.
painting with your feet. See what happens. I think that'd
No,
be cool
I've
too.
actually thought about doing like a live stream of me painting with my feet because I do make
That'd be cool.
videos of just recordings of sometimes when I'm painting. But I
Hmm.
think it'd be cool for people to like watch the process and see how it
Yeah.
goes.
Like it's not fake. It's real. I paint with my feet.
Yeah. I had to make those videos to prove to people sometimes because some people didn't believe it.
Hmm.
And honestly, I don't know why I felt the need to prove that to them, but I did.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I gave in and I did.
Yeah. No, but it's just like it's crazy. It's very unique. Yeah. Almost to end this episode out, two more questions. Compared to where you're at now, what are some of the things that you wish you would have known when you first got started?
I wish that I knew that art is always around you.
Hmm.
Art's not just paintings, art's not just drawings, art's not just sidewalk chalk. Art can be anything. So when I was first starting off, I thought that art was just this one single thing, drawings. That's what I imagine as art. So when I saw people doing other things, I just thought, oh, that's painting. That's not in the category of art. It's just painting, like its own thing. So what I think everyone should know if they're in this industry is that anything can be art. You can always expand your horizons. You can always venture out, try something new, and you'll still be in the field of art. Maybe you see like 3D art, for example. I don't do it, but I would like to try one day.
Right.
So, yeah, I just don't limit yourself. Anything that you try can be included.
Mhm. The possibilities are really endless, especially
Mhm,
in art. There's no limit. Like you could be so imaginative, and just create anything, like literally anything.
mhm,
Whether it's photography, painting, or music, it's the possibilities are endless.
mhm.
Yeah. Um, and the second question was any advice you would give to anybody who is starting out in the same industry as you?
I'm gonna go based on what I said before. Just don't listen to people that are giving you a hard time. Keep
Hmm.
going with what you want to do. If you need support, you can always look on Instagram now. There's so many artists out there. Message them. Most of them will reply and give you advice. So just keep in mind that you always have a community with you
Hmm.
and they're easily accessible.
Exactly, yeah, and then like exactly what we are. If we try to host events to get people more engaged and more opportunities to showcase. Um, but before we end off, is there anything else you want to show? Anything else you want to share?
I think that's it.
You think that's it? Yeah. So
Yeah.
last thing, where can people find your art? Let's say they want to buy your art, they want to talk to you about art. Where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, which my handle is my first and last name, so Aparna.Mangadu. And then I also sometimes post on Facebook, but I don't use that if you want to reach out to me. I would use Instagram to reach out or potentially TikTok because I've been posting art on there. So yeah,
Hmm.
those are my two main platforms. I do have everything linked in my Instagram account, which is the easiest to find.
Hmm. And
And
there's a
if you have any
website coming soon,
questions,
right?
hmm?
There's a website coming soon, hopefully.
Hopefully. And if you have any questions, just feel free to ask me. I check my DMs very consistently and I make sure to answer people. And if anyone wants art advice or they want to give me advice, I'll gladly take any advice that they have.
Right.
Anyone that knows anything about making a website, come to me.
Yeah, because I mean we're kind of struggling with ours too. So likewise. But awesome, Aparna. I mean, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for being a guest.
Thank you for
A lot of
having me.
these episodes are gonna be very helpful to a lot of people. Hopefully that's the goal of all this is just be able to help people express themselves and get their word out, their stories. Giving advice. But to end this episode off, anybody who is listening right now, we're go ahead and give Aparna some love. Go ahead and show us some love on our page too. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, pretty much anywhere you guys want. And that's going to be it for today's episode, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in.